statements. What next before those statements, by the way? Look at number one. Just what do these people want anyway? How many of you have ever had somebody ask that question about people of other color groups? What do these people want anyway? How many of you have heard that question? Yeah, you hear it all the time and you recognize it. A whole lot of people just pretend they didn't hear it. After you see that, when you want to, oh, and how about this one? I don't understand what you people are saying. How many of you? Oh, yeah, that's part of our. On the whole, this is a good one. The educated, the upper classes, the emotionally mature, and the deeply religious are much less racist. How many of you have heard that one? And how many of you have heard it from somebody who actually believes that shit? Yeah. Well, how about this one? Other ethnic groups had to struggle. Why is it so different for the black?
Ooh. Oh my God.
How about this? Today, yeah. Angry minorities make me feel so helpless. How many of you have heard that?
Oh, I've heard that. I've been called angry a lot.
You've been called what?
Angry a lot.
Oh, I thought you said nigger, and I was going to say that. And I was going to correct you for that.
No, I don't.
Number 6. Racism exists only where minorities exist. Remove the minorities, and we won't have these problems. How many of you heard that?
Yes.
Yes, our wannabe president has built a wall, engineered the building of a wall along the southern border of the United States to keep those brown-skinned people out because he says brown-skinned people reproduce too rapidly. And he has closed most of the Planned Parenthood clinics because he thinks the only thing that happens there is abortions for white women. That's not what happens in Planned Parenthood clinics. But now a whole lot of women who need Planned Parenthood clinics can't get those services because a man who wants to be president has decided that they can't have him. Oh, now I've lost him. All there is a dog. People, you need to read through those and then go to the clarifications of those statements. Thank you. To a minority, no matter what I say or do, it doesn't suit you. You are never satisfied. As far as you're concerned, I can't do anything right. How many of you have ever had that said to you? All the time. I should not be held responsible for the behavior of my parents.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, we put that in the schools today. We're not going to study what happened in the past because it will make white people feel guilty. So we're going to stop teaching the truth because we don't want these white children to feel guilty. I don't want them to feel guilty. I want them to be responsible for the present so they'll create a better future.
Yes.
Wow.
If you don't know what happened in the past, you won't change what you're doing in the present to make things better in the future. The only thing necessary for the perpetuation of evil is for good people to do nothing. I lost it again. You have a very risky thing there. It's not my fault. I'm not racist, but when it comes right down to it, I wouldn't marry a black person. How many of you have heard that one?
Yes.
Now let me tell you what's going to happen about that. Within 20 years, white people will be a numerical minority in the United States of America. So there will be no one for you pale, stale males to marry. You're going to have to say to yourself, brown is beautiful. And you're going to say, my grandmother was brown. I know she must have been. Come back. People, we'll never put a stop to this till it seems totally ridiculous. I'm with them. Oh, this one. I'm with them up to the point where they want to break the law or do something illegal. How many of you have heard that one?
Yes.
How many of you have heard white people do anything illegal? How many of you know who Donosaurus T. Rump is?
Of course.
How many of you think he should have been aborted? Okay, I am not. How can I be pro-black without being anti-white? How many of you have heard that one?
Yeah.
How can I be pro-black without being... See, these two people have heard all of them. You haven't heard them.
No, I have. I was shaking my head in agreement, but like a negative agreement. It was like a, you know, like
The most important things minorities need are an education and the vote. So what are we working hard at removing from minorities right now? The vote.
The vote, yeah.
And what have we kept from people who are other than what we call white over the years? Education.
Yeah.
Where do we put the worst schools and the worst teachers and the worst facilities?
In the hood.
Across the highway.
Yep.
Where the schools for the so-called black people are. We're doing it then, we've done it, now we're still doing it. Love can't be legislated. How many of you have heard that one? So I don't have to legislate you just because the law says I have to let you live. I don't care whether you love me. let me get this perfectly clear. I don't care whether you love me. Put your love where the sun doesn't shine. I want justice,
Yeah.
and I want it now.
Yes.
You can give up the idea, I don't need your love. If you love me but treat me unjustly, we're not going to end up in a loving relationship.
That's right.
Make no mistake about this. Don't tell me, don't stand there on Sunday morning in the Methodist church and sing those songs about love while you're guaranteeing that there'll be no people of color come through the front door.
Come on.
And the ultimate obscenity, while you have a picture of Jesus hanging behind the minister who has
Blue eye.
Blue eyes,
eyes,
blonde hair.
a white face, almost white, very pale face, long, light-colored brown hair. In fact, in the Bible that you're reading, it says Jesus had kinky woolly hair and feet of bronze.
Burned in the fire, like it was burned in the
Like
fire.
they've been burned in the fire.
Yeah.
That's in the damn Bible.
It is.
So how do you think we should either stop using the Bible or start believing it? Which do you want to do?
Believe it.
How many of you want to believe it? How many of you want to throw it away? How many of you want to hold it up like
Get rid of
former president does? Upside down.
Upside down. And say 2 Corinthians.
It says that the man has given us all kinds of material for comedy.
Yes.
Okay, white people should not have to integrate if they don't want to. People, there are no white people. You can't avoid integrating because you're one of us. None of you look like this, and none of us look like this. We all got that now? What are we going to do to alleviate the black problem? People, if we're going to alleviate the black problem, we're going to kill everybody on earth.
Yeah.
Because we all came from Africa. You don't want to do that. Every person should be judged solely on the basis of his or her accomplishments, regardless of race. How do you think we live by that?
Yeah.
We whites should get a little more appreciation for what we are doing to help. Or here's the one we hear most often. Some of my best friends are black.
Oh yeah. I hate that. Oh my gosh, I hate that one. Oh.
How many of you have said that one?
I'll admit I have.
I'll
I said it.
admit I have too, until I went to work for US West, and I said it around Black, Linda Guillory, when we weren't calling her black at that time. And she says, well, Jane, you just did it. I said, oh God, I'm sorry. She said, you shouldn't be.
I had a similar response to my black friends that I was referring to.
What?
They said, don't, I had a similar response to my black friends that I was referring to. When they heard me say that, they're like, don't say that ever again.
No, don't ever say that again, because number one, you just lost most of your friends who are of something other than white. Because they know what you're thinking of them. You're claiming them as your property.
Yep.
So my best friends are black. Would they call you their best friend?
No.
No, hell no, and they shouldn't. Why don't they just relax? How many of you have heard that one?
Oh.
If they just calm down and just keep their place. If they just wouldn't think they deserve what they
Oh
don't
my
deserve.
gosh.
If they just would say thank you and just settle down.
Yep.
You've heard it all, people.
Yes, ma'am.
And many of you have said it all, but you aren't going to admit it until you read this list, and then you'll know. Then you read the clarification, and then you'll know why you better not say that ever again. After you read the clarifications and find out how dumb you really are, because we really are. I'm absolutely serious.
Oh,
about
yeah.
this. We are allowed to be ignorant where racism is concerned. In fact, you have to be ignorant to be accepted in places like Sun City, where I live in the wintertime. It's a really interesting experience. I would think they would be glad to have me there, but I act like I came from outer space. And I did. I came from a place where people think in a different way. I came from my father's house, who said you don't judge a book by its cover or a man by his skin. And then he said, don't bring any pickaninnies into my house as grandchildren. Because that's what we do, people. We say one thing, and then we say exactly the opposite when we need to. Because one of the major differences between so-called white people and people of color, other color groups is, when so-called white people, melanated people come into a new environment, they immediately adjust the environment to fit their needs. When people of other color groups come into a new environment, they immediately adjust their needs to fit the environment. Now, we have adjusted that map that they aren't moving up anymore to fit our needs. Now we're going to adjust that to fit the needs of all of us. We're going to insist that the Mercator map be taken out of the schools and that the Peters projection map be placed in the schools. And my daughter is going to give each of you a copy of the Peters projection map.
Yeah.
And then I expect you to go to the place down, not too far from here, where they sell educational materials.
Oh,
And
yeah.
buy and insist that they have the Peters projection map in the size that I just showed you. And then I hope you will take a copy of that to the nearest school, to every classroom, and say, put this in these classrooms. We want the students who are being educated here to learn the truth instead of the lie that's on the Mercator projection map. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Is that going to be expensive?
No.
No, not if you just one map at a time, take it to the superintendent or to the principal and say, I want this map in every classroom in this building, because this is the truth, and I want you to stop teaching the lie that the Mercator projection map teaches. If you just do that one thing, people, we can bring a new awareness to the kids who are going to pay your Social Security. You want these kids to get educated so that they can get employed, so that they can pay taxes, so that they can pay your Social Security and mine. Mine first, mine comes first. But eventually you will be in the situation I'm in. And you will not want to have elected somebody like Don Source T. Rump, who wants to cut out Social Security. You don't want that to happen, people. You would just as soon it did now. But when you get to be my age, you'll realize that wouldn't be a good idea. You have a really bad idea. That's what that's what W wanted to do too. Remember W? He used to call himself W.
Yeah.
And I did this on a college stage one day, and I said, you know who W is? And some young man down there said, Mrs. Elliott, don't do that anymore. I said, why not? And he said, because what he's really doing is this. And he wasn't talking about the brown finger. He was talking about fuck you. So I quit doing this. Because if that's what W does, it means this. I'm not going to do that. But now, if he does this, you're going to say, brown finger. Congratulations, you know about the brown finger. Good for you. Now, are there any questions?
I have one question.
What?
You were saying not to refer to people as black or white. How do we bring attention to the disparities?
Stop saying it.
But
And then they're going to say
when-
to you, I want to be called black. And then you're going to say, you want to be called vicious and savage and evil? I can do that for you. You want me to call your child vicious and savage and evil? Do you know the history of that word? Because if you don't know the history of that word and why it's used, maybe that's the reason you're willing to use it. Once you hear the history of the word, I think you'll say to yourself, this is a good idea.
And I understand that, but when we're trying to educate white people and we're trying to show them the differences, like it's almost like how do we show them that
Okay.
one set of people are,
You have a black shirt on, right?
yes,
You wear that a lot?
yeah.
Then you say to them, do you see many people who are this color? And they'll say, well, no, but that you don't understand. You say, what does black mean to you? Well, it means somebody from Africa. Well, then why don't you say Afro? Well, because they want to be called black. Well, that's too bad that they want to be called black, but I don't want to call them black because it's a derogatory term. I know that for years it was seen as a derogatory term, so young blacks decided they'd be called black. Well, no, it's still a derogatory term. That's still the history of that word. And it still means that you are less than. Because white means goodness and purity, people. And if black means savagery and evil, which one do you want to be called? Which one do you want to be called?
How can you talk about a word and the history behind it when you just said the N-word, hard R?
I said that to him for him and for me, not for you to worry about. But you can worry about it if you want to. I never ever say that word, but I said that. Were you offended? No. Don't be offended for him. He can be offended for himself. You don't have to do it for him. You understand that? He and I have met and have talked, and he knows where I'm coming from, and I know where he's coming from. And he and I don't see that as a derogatory term. We know exactly what we're talking about.
Wow.
You see it as a derogatory term. You hadn't better use it. If it's a derogatory term to you, don't use it. I ordinarily don't use it. I use it here with that young man. Number one, he's younger than I am, and if he doesn't listen, I'll spank him. Number two, he's bigger than I am, and I'm not going to mess with him. Number three, he and I understand about that word, and we know that it's unacceptable. Now, if the only thing you have heard, and all the things I've been saying here, is the word N-I-G-G-E-R, that means you're reacting negatively to that, and thinking about that instead of thinking about all the rest of what I've said.
No,
Think-
I've been thinking
Wait a
about
minute, wait a minute.
everything that you've done.
When did the word race come into being to mean a specific group of people?
I don't know.
Does anybody else know?
1580,
1580, right? And where did it come from?
from the Pope and the guy who from France, yeah.
See, I said that
Uh-huh,
while these people were listening,
yeah.
and you were feeling bad about the N-word.
Yeah, I feel like any realistic, genuine reaction, I feel like everybody in this room heard you say hard R, maybe not everybody, and they were horrified.
No.
No?
No. Nope.
Why don't you speak for yourself, dear?
Yeah.
Do not speak for everybody in this room. Now, let me tell you what's happening here. Close your mouth and
Okay.
open your ears. Let me tell you what's happening here. You're reacting from youth. You're reacting because you're young, and you're determined, and you're devoted to ending this situation, and we're going to use it, we're going to do it by attacking one word. I want to attack laws, and I
Yes,
want to attack the police,
absolutely.
I want to attack the churches,
Uh-huh.
I want to attack the education system.
Yes.
I want to attack all those places where people of color, who aren't of color, but are my color, we're all shades of brown. I want to attack all those places, not one goddamn word called Nigger. I think that's the least of our problems. And I think he has the right to use that word anytime he wants to.
Well, yeah.
And do you?
Yes.
Yes, he has the right to use that word. That's his word. He and I know that that's what's going on here.
Uh-huh.
You don't know that because you haven't been where I'm going. You haven't been where I've been. How old are you?
I'm 21.
You're 21. Good. God bless you. Last week, I was attacked by a 17-year-old
Uh-huh.
who said, "You don't know what you're talking about. You haven't been where you haven't done what I've done." I said, "You're right." And but I was thinking to myself, "I'm going to kill you, you little bitch." But I
Right.
didn't say that. And I didn't say that to you. What I'm saying to you is, let him defend himself. He doesn't need your defense. He knows how to do it. He knows what I was saying. Were you offended by my using that word in that context?
No, ma'am.
Don't call me ma'am. I told you that before.
Yes, you did. No, I wasn't.
Didn't he just call me ma'am?
did.
Told me that on the driveway. Don't call me ma'am. Didn't
You
I say
did.
that?
You said it. You said it.
And you did it again,
I
didn't you?
did it.
Should I attack him for it? There were some things said here today that you don't remember.
Yes.
Yes, yes. When did the word race come into use to mean a specific group of people?
Can you repeat the question?
When
When
did the word race
was race
first be used
first be used?
to mean a specific group of people?
15th century?
Close.
16th century?
Yes, 1580.
1580.
Okay.
1580. Now, with your first finger, write that on the palm of your hand. 1580. With your right
I
hand,
don't have a pen.
you're going to use your finger. On your finger. On your thumb, your hand, your palm, right there, that thing, your palm, okay? With this finger.
Yeah.
You are going to see yourself write 1, 5, 8, 0. What is that?
1580.
What is that?
The year
What number is that?
1500.
1580. What number is that?
1580. I don't understand the question.
1580.
1580. You got it?
Uh-huh.
And what happened in 1580 that should be important to you?
The word race came into use.
As
Derogatory.
meaning, no, not as a derogatory term, meaning what? A specific group of people.
A specific group of people.
The word race was not used for people until 1580 in France.
1580 in France.
Did you learn anything?
I learned that now.
What is it? What did you just learn? Where did the word race come into being in a specific group of people?
In the year 1580, the
In what
word
country?
in France.
Thank you. Then I have not lived in vain. And we have not wasted our time here. But you see, all the rest of these folks heard that because they weren't reacting negatively to Nigger. So stop thinking about things that really don't hurt you at all, or concern you at all. He's taking it because he's big. And he's neurotic. And he's been where you're going. You aren't there yet, but he's been there. He has taken abuse that you haven't had to take. You know that, and I know it. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and how about
Yes, sir. Yes. Brother. Stop saying it. Yes. Yes. Come on, bro. I know, man. It's true. It's true.
next question is, how would you have liked to have been in my class when you were in 7th grade?
Oh my God.
People learn when they're in my class. People learn when they're in my presence in a situation like this. Because I'm an educator. I'm not a teacher. Teachers dispense facts and figures to get students ready for end-of-year testing. That's not what I am. I'm an educator. The word educator comes from root duck deuce, which means lead, the prefix e, which means out, the suffix ate, which means one who does, the act of, and the suffix or, which means one who does. An educator is one who is engaged in the act of leading people out of ignorance. Now, that's what educators are supposed to do. How many of you have learned anything in here in the last hour? Then thank you very, very much. Don't do that, don't do that. That isn't necessary. The fact that you say you have learned something is all I care about. I mean that sincerely. Because we specifically, we melanemic people have so much to learn. And we can't learn it from other melanemic people because they don't know it. Because they've never had to learn it. We have been conditioned to the myth of white superiority as if there is such a thing as white people. There isn't. And there are black people. But what are there?
A whole bunch of that.
Brown people. Now you, young woman, do not do that in school tomorrow.
Yes, please.
But if somebody does do this to you, you say, you don't say, I'm going to tell the teacher, you say, you're a brown person, just like everybody else is. And then they're going to go, you don't know what you're talking about. You say, no, you don't know what you're talking about. And wipe them out. Because the worst thing you can do is a racist is to educate them. The worst thing you can do to a racist is to bring them education. This is not what they want. Because they have to give up everything that they hold near and dear. If they give up the superiority of a group of people that don't even exist. White people don't exist. Black people don't exist. Yellow people don't exist. Yellow people don't exist. Yellow people don't exist. Red people don't exist. What's the only color people that exist?
Brown.
People, this is an important fact, and it is a fact. It isn't just something I made up. It's a fact. Get the National Geographic magazine for, I think, April of 2018. There's a pair of twins on the cover. One's a little black girl and a little white girl.
Oh, yeah.
In that, I have that here.
That is so fabulous. And what was it, 8 years later, the parents had another set of twins?
Jane Elliott said the N-word during Black History Month, and I was the only person in that room who called her out. And I finally got the footage. Here it is.
I've been called angry a lot.
You've been called what?
Angry a
Oh,
lot.
I thought you said I was going to say that. And I was going to correct you for that.
No, I don't.
But
You were saying not to refer to people as black or white. How do we bring attention to the disparities?
stop saying it.
But
And then you're going to say to you, I want to be called black. And then you're going to say, you want to be called vicious and savage and evil? I can do that for you. You want me to call your child vicious and savage and evil? Do you know the history of that word? Because if you don't know the history of that word and why it's used, And maybe that's the reason you're willing to use it. Once you hear the history of the word, I think you'll say to yourself, this is a good idea.
And
I don't want to call them black because it's a derogatory term. I know that for years it was seen as a derogatory term, so young blacks decided they'd be called black. Well, no, it's still a derogatory term. That's still the history of that word. And it still means that you are less than. Because white means goodness and purity, people. And if black means savagery and evil, which one do you want to be called? Which one do you want to be called?
How can you talk about a word and the history behind it when you just said the N-word, hard R?
I said that to him for him and for me, not for you to worry about. But you can worry about it if you want to. I never ever say that word, but I said that. Were you offended? No. Don't be offended for him. He can be offended for himself. You don't have to report him. You understand that? He and I have met and have talked, and he knows where I'm coming from, and I know where he's coming from. And he and I don't see that as a derogatory term. We know exactly what we're talking about.
Wow.
You see it as a derogatory term, you had better use it. If it's a derogatory term to you, don't use it. I ordinarily don't use it. I use it here with that young man. Number one, he's younger than I am, and if he doesn't listen, I'll spank him. Number two, he's bigger than I am, and I'm not going to mess with him. Number three, he and I understand about that word, and we know it is unacceptable. Now, if the only thing you have heard, and all the things I've been saying here, is the word N-I-G-G-E-R, that means you're reacting negatively to that and thinking about that instead of thinking about all the rest of what I've said. While these people were listening,
Yeah.
and you were feeling bad about the N-word.
Yeah, I feel like any realistic, genuine reaction, I feel like everybody in this room heard you say hard R, maybe not everybody, and they were horrified.
No.
No?
Why don't you speak for yourself, dear?
Now, what you probably weren't able to tell from that video is I have terrible social anxiety. So I was trying not to cry the whole time, and I was in complete shock. I mean, I feel like most people would be when the famous activist Jane Elliott is scolding them in front of a whole group of people, agreeing with her that she, as a white woman, can say the N-word. As you heard her say in that clip, saying that black people are black is offensive due to the history and context behind that word. And then she says the N-word. The hypocrisy is glaring. Hi, this is an update from future Preston who got that video, it got not by me. I just want to, I think I should really clarify some of my reasoning behind posting that video, because I think so much was lost on that. So the people who were in my life who are black explained to me that they wanted me to not only the battery, but they wanted me, that they were glad that I said something. There were black people in that room who were glad that I said something. There are black people that I've never even met who I saw in the comments of the previous video were glad that I said something. There were black people who reached out to me that said, hey, I think in that context that was acceptable. I'm not here to tell you that you're wrong. I'm here to say Jane Elliott said that. Everything I've been taught post-indoctrination tells me that what she said wasn't okay. I hope that clarifies it.